Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy, Linkway Warrior Kamal, and I am back with another video. And in today's video, I am going to be doing another Throwback Thursday review. And in today's Throwback Thursday review, what I am going to be reviewing is this album right here. As you can see, this is Ghostface Killah's first album, Ironman. And if you don't know who Ghostface Killah is, which I am sure a lot of you do know who he is a part of the legendary hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan. And a little history on this album. This album actually, was actually the fourth. Matter of fact, not even the fourth. The fifth member of the Wu-Tang Clan, the legendary rock group Wu-Tang Clan, to come out with an album early in their career. This is actually his first album, and this album right here came out in 1996. Now, the singles for this album, before I tell you the singles, there are 16 tracks on this album. Now, the singles off of this album right here are Kame, Daytona 500, Motherless Child, and All That I Got Is You. Those are the singles off this album. The album is produced by RZA. And as you can see this is the front cover, and as you can see, it has Ghostface Killah right here, Capadonna right here, and then Raekwon right here. And it also says, I like how it says Ghostface Killah at the bottom, and it has the words in big bold letters. And it says, as you can see, it also says featuring Raekwon and Capadonna on the front cover, underneath his name right there. And what's also dope about the album covers, they got wallabies. You know, in the 1990s in New York, because a lot of these cats are from New York. Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Capadonna are from New York, and they used to wear these type of shoes back in the day, the wallabies. So that's dope how they got the wallabies on the front cover. Then you got on the back of the cover, this is what the back of the album looks like. You got the track listing right here. You got the producer right here. The producers and the people who mixed and arranged right here. And the executive producer credits right there, who executive produced it right there. And then you got Ghostface Killah right there on the side, and then the chart listing for his first album. Then you got pics at the bottom of the album, which you can see, as you can see. Then you got one of the album pics is a Wu-Tang Clan logo. One of the album pics is a Wallaby logo, and two of the pics is Wallaby logos, and a couple of more Wu-Tang Clan logos on here. And you got the Epic logo, which is the label that he was signed to at the time. I'm not sure if the label still exists right now, and he is still with the label, but that's what label he was with back then. Then you got another Wu-Tang Clan logo right there at the bottom. Now, to get to the futures, but before I get to the futures, and he was featured on the album, and show you something, the album book. This is what the CD of the album looks like. As you can see, it is like a grayish and blackish type color, and it has the Wu-Tang Clan logo on the disc, which I thought was pretty dope, pretty cool. This is what the album looks like. The album booklet looks like. As you can see, the chart listing. I like how they got the chart listing on here inside the booklet, and then you got the CD. What the CD disc look like right there, with the Wu-Tang Clan logo, and then you got a miniature pic right here, Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Capadonna on here. And you also got another ghost pic with Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Capadonna. And here, right here in this area, you got their shout-outs. You got their shout-outs right here in this area, right here. And then you got another pic of some wallabies right here. Now, as far as the futures go, this is all who's featured on the album. This is all who's featured on Ghostface Killah's Ironman album. Raekwon, Capadonna, The RZA, Inspector Deck, You got Master Killah, and Method Man on the album. That is all who is featured on the album. There are 16 tracks on the album. And of course, as you know, the entire album is produced by RZA, and is executive produced by RZA and his brother and Ali Grant and Ghostface Killah. Now the first track, now we're going to start talking about the tracks on the album. The first track is Iron Maiden. Now this is one of my personal favorites on the album. This track features Raekwon, and this track features Capadonna as well. This is actually A really dope song. I like the beat. I like the verses. And Ghostface Killah comes through with a really dope verse on this track. Raekwon comes through with a really dope verse on this track. And Capadonna comes through with one of his best verses on this track. In my opinion, this is one of the best tracks on the album. The first track, Iron Maiden. The second track, number 2, is called Wildflower. Now, Ghostface Killah does this track solo, and he basically was rapping about his ex-girlfriend that broke his heart and cheated on him with another man. And if you ever had a woman you love, and that's basically what the song is about. The song is about his ex-girlfriend that he loved and he was in love with, and he cared about, and she cheated on him with another man. And if you ever been in a relationship with a woman, and you a man and you are actually ever been in a relationship with a woman and you loved her and you was in love with her and you cared about her, then you could actually relate to the second track on the album, Wildflower. Track number 3, Ghostface Killah actually doesn't appear on the track on this album. And let me give you a little bit of history about this track, The Faster Blade, which is track number 3. Raekwon actually does this track solo. But before I get into the history of the track, let me tell you something else. Ghostface Killah, Raekwon actually had an album that came out in 1995 called a solo album that came out in 1995 called Only Built for a Cuban Link. And on that solo album, Raekwon gave Ghostface Killah a solo track on his album, and the track was called Wisdom Body, if I'm not mistaken. So what I think, this is my opinion. I guess Ghostface Killah was returning the favor for when Raekwon gave him a solo track on his album. So Raekwon does Faster Blade, does track Faster Blade, and the Ghostface Killah is not on this track. And let me brush you up on some more history about the Faster Blade track. I heard that, this is what I heard. I heard that, because Raekwon, in my opinion, Raekwon comes through with one of his best verses ever on Faster Blade. But what I heard was Raekwon's verse was so dope, he killed it on this track, that Ghostface Killah ain't even want to hop on the track. He just let Raekwon keep going and keep rapping because Raekwon came through with a really dope verse on this track, and he bodied this beat with the verse that he came through. That is what I heard about this track, Faster Blade. And Raekwon definitely comes through with a dope verse on this track, one of his best verses ever. And this is another one of my favorite tracks on this album right here. Track number 4 260. This is actually another one of my favorite tracks on the album. And if I'm not mistaken, Ghostface, Killah, and Raekwon rap on this track together, and if I'm not mistaken, they also rap back and forth on this track, and I love the back and forth rapping between Ghostface, Killah, and Raekwon. And this is a pretty dope track. Now the next track, this next track features track number 5. This track features Inspect the Deck, Master Killah, and this track also features the RZA also. And what is interesting about track number 5, Assassination Day, is that Ghostface Killah is not even on this track. That's interesting to me that he is not on this track on this album. He is not on Assassination Day, which I'm shocked by, because normally he would have rocked on this type of track, but he's not on. He is actually not on this track, and I'm very, very shocked that he's not on Assassination Day. But however, the track is still a pretty dope track. Inspect the Deck comes through with a really dope verse. I always felt like Inspect the Deck was one of the most underrated members of the group. The RZA comes through with a dope verse on this track, and Master Killah comes through with a dope verse on this track. I always felt like Master Killah, the RZA, and Inspect the Deck were underrated members of the group Wu-Tang Clan. Now the next track, this next track, Went to Wars, is like a posse cut on the album. This track features U-God, Raekwon, and Capadonna on this track. And this is a really, really dope track. U-God comes through with a really dope verse. Master Killah comes through with a really dope verse, and Capadonna spit one of his dopest verses that he ever spit on Went to Wars. And if I'm not mistaken, Capadonna had spit for like 2 minutes on this track right here, Went to Wars. He comes through with a really dope verse and kills it. Track number 8, Box in Hand. This track features Raekwon and features Method Man. Ghostface, and this track is a dope track too. Method Man comes through with a really dope verse and one of his best verses ever. Raekwon comes through with a dope verse, and Ghostface Killah comes through with a dope verse. Track number 9, Fish. Fish is also another one of my favorite tracks on the album. Now this track right here features Raekwon and Capadonna. Ghostface Killah starts it off with the first verse. And Ghostface Killah comes through with a dope verse and one of his best verses, really tight verse, and one of his best verses on the album. And then Raekwon and Capadonna come through with some really dope verses too on this track. Now track number 10 is actually one of the singles off of the album, Kame. And this song is actually like about females. And in my opinion, I would basically consider this an Ice Cream Part 2, because it's about females. Ghostface Killah comes through with a really dope verse on the track. Raekwon comes through with a really dope verse on this track, and Capadonna comes through with a really dope verse on this track. And I like the vocals singing in the background on this track, and I also like the beat on this track right here. Track number 11 is Daytona 500, which is also another single off the album. And if you ever saw the video, which I'm sure a lot of you have if you are a hip-hop fan, or you are a Wu-Tang Clan fan, or even if you're just a Ghostface Killah and Raekwon and Capadonna fan, the video is actually a cartoon music video, which I thought was pretty interesting and I thought was pretty dope, pretty cool. Ghostface Killah comes through with a really dope verse on this track. Raekwon comes through with a really dope verse on this track, and Capadonna comes through with one of his best verses that he ever spit on this track, Daytona 500. Now, the next track is track number 12. And this is another single off the album, Motherless Child. Raekwon comes through with a really dope verse on his track, and Ghostface Killah comes through with one of his best storytelling verses of all time on his track, Motherless Child, and one of his best verses on the album. Track number 13, Black Jesus. This track features Raekwon and also features You God. Ghostface Killah comes through with a dope verse. Raekwon comes through with a dope verse, and You God comes through with one of his best verses that he ever spit. I always felt like You God was underrated, because You God actually is a dope lyricist and dope MC. But I feel like You God is underrated and he is slept on, and he does not get the credit and the respect that he deserves as a lyricist and as a MC. And You God comes through with one of his best verses that he ever spit on his track, Black Jesus. Track number 14, After the Smoke, is Clear. This track features the RZA, and also Future's Raekwon the Chef. Ghostface Killah comes through with a dope verse. Raekwon comes through with a dope verse, and the RZA comes through with one of his best verses that he ever spit. Track number 15 on the album, which is another one of the singles off the album, All That I Got Is You. This is a single, and on this track right here, he is basically rhyming and reflecting about things that he went through in his childhood, and actually rapping about his childhood on this track. And if I'm not mistaken, Mary J. Blige is not on the album version. I could be wrong because it's been a while since I listened to this album. I actually ordered this album right here off the internet. But I could be wrong, so take what I am saying with a grain of salt about Mary J. Blige not being on this track, because I could be wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, she is on an actual music video version of this song, All That I Got Is You. And track number 16, which is Marvo, it is the last and final track on the album, but I could be wrong about that also, because it may be a bonus track on here. But Marvo is another track. It's track 16, and this is a dope track, but I don't like it as much as I like the other tracks on the album, but it's still a dope song. And Ghostface Killah comes through with some dope verses on this track on the album, and this album is actually a pretty dope album. And it came, like I told you, it came out in 1996. And if I'm not mistaken, this album went platinum. This album went platinum. And this is one of his most successful albums, is this album right here. And this album also got 4 mics in the source. And I know a lot of y'all probably are like, what is he talking about? The Source is for those who don't know, The Source is a hip-hop magazine that used to review your albums and rate your albums on how many mics you would get. And it also talked about different topics in hip-hop. So yeah, the Source magazine does not exist no more, but it did exist did still exist at the time when this album came out. This album came out 25 years ago, 1996, and it got 4 mics in the Source. And this album also went platinum. And to rate this album right here on a scale of 1 to 10, what I would rate this album, I would rate this album a 10 out of 10, because this album is a classic. This album is a dope from start to finish. This is one of those albums one of those hip-hop albums that you could listen to all the way through and it not be one walk track on this album. And if you are a hip hop fan and you don't have this album, or even if you are just a Wu-Tang Clan fan or Ghostface Killah fan, I would highly recommend you getting this album right here. This is a must-have in your collection because this album is a classic hip-hop album. And they don't sell this album at stores no more. So if you want to buy this album, you will have to go to ebay.com or go to amazon.com to order this album, because they don't sell it in stores no more because it came out in 1996. So if you want this album, order it from amazon.com or ebay.com. I want to thank y'all for watching today's video and have a wonderful day.